The Bull-Headed Soldier, July 1963 to April 1975. Epilogue. Mr. Tristan Martinez, called Mr. Toro by the village children, was born in Tocuaro. He served in the Mexican Armed Forces for 35 years and retired as a sergeant colonel from counterinsurgency operations. Afterward, he stayed in his village and spent the rest of his life as a social worker. Every Sunday evening, he would tell stories at Tocuaro Primary School for the children. He did this for 22 years, without fail, to keep the rich culture of Pátzcuaro alive. The story. In the time of Juan, the children of Tocuaro went to school every Sunday evening. Unusual, I know, but they begged and pleaded with their mothers until they could. Please, Mama, can I go hear Mr. Toro's stories? Mama, I want to see the bull soldier. In the Gabriel house, the same ritual played out, without fail. Juan and his 3 brothers, plus little Rosa, who they could not dare to leave behind, would corner their mother and plead with her. Can we see him? Please, just for a little bit. She would shake her head, like all mothers in the village, and wag her fingers at them. But the Juan changed her mind every time. If Mr. Toro has no one to talk to, he might go away. Juan raised himself to full height, barely his mother's hip. And if we do not look after our old soldier, no one else will. Maria shrugged her soldiers and hugged them all and led them to the school. Young boys flocked after them, filling the street like chittering mice, and headed to the school. We get to see the soldier. Juan raced ahead and led them into the school. Outside, on the dry grass, propped up by a broken cartoon, sat the soldier. He wore his army jacket because the children always asked to see his medals. A faded green jacket with small stains and heavy with smell of smoke. Gunpowder. He told the children, hiding a secret. It is the smell of gunpowder. The bull-headed soldier looked nicer than you think. His face had no scars, and his teeth gleamed in the right light, but his eyes carried the battle wounds. Soldier's eyes that could stop a bull in its tracks. Mr. Toro grinned and took a single small clothespin out of his jacket. The boys grinned back, seeing it glint in the winking sunset. They knew the story. Before joining the army, a bully had challenged Mr. Toro to enter the local bull ring. He had picked the largest bull and expected it to crush the young Toro. But every day for 7 days, until the big fight, Mr. Toro came to the bull's cage. He kneeled down, stared into the bull's eyes, and pricked it on the nose every day with that same needle, until one day he did not even need the needle. He could pierce the animal with his gauge alone. On the day of the fight, Mr. Toro just stared at the bull and dared it to approach him. The hulking creature cowered and slinked away, conquered with a single stare. The village cheered and called him the bull-headed soldier. The man so stubborn, so brave, that he would stand his ground no matter what. Joan sat close to his mother and whispered, "Ask him to tell an ancient story from Pachkuaro." She sussed him, but said to Mr. Toro, "My little son is anxious to hear something from Pachkuaro." The old soldier threaded the pin into his jacket. "But what story do you want?" "Princess Mintita," he called out, "and the prince, and the ghosts, and the treasure." Mr. Toro waved that way. "Princess Mintita comes at the end of the story, not the start. If you want to hear about the princess, I have to start with the lake." The children groaned, for they all wanted action and magic. But they could not sway Mr. Toro. A bull could not frighten him. A war could not kill him. And the children could not make him change his story. "I cannot chop the beginning of a story and tell you the end." He lit another cigarette. A pin-prick of orange light glowed between his fingers like fire. "If you forget the start of the story, you will not understand the ending." Joan sat forward, legs crossed, like he was in school, and waited. "You can all see the lake?" Mr. Toro gestured to the water, dark, silent. "But very few of you realize the water can see you too. The birds and beasts watch us and protect the water." He breathed deeply on the cigarette. The small fire spot flared brighter. Once, when the divine God poured his water onto Lake Pachkuaro, 3 different families of fish swam there. They were much smarter than you or I. They could talk and plan and watch the people on the shore. Well, one day a fisherman came to the lake and found them. He was so delighted, he said he would come back tomorrow with a large net and catch them all. But the fish watched him, and they knew his plan. The first family decided to move to find a different home and hide. Their friends in the second family agreed, but the third family of fish said, "No, we are not leaving our home. It is too cowardly. We will stay." The others tried to convince them, but they would not budge. So they left and swam to deeper water by themselves. The next day when the fisherman returned, he caught every fish in the third family. He swept them up in his giant net and took them away. And for a time the lake lay empty. But slowly the first and second families returned, looking for their friends, but they were gone, and they were never seen again. He paused and stamped his cigarette into the ground. "You all understand why I tell you this story?" "Yes," they chorused back. "Some of you are lying," he said with a wink. "But I will go on. Eventually, you will get it." He cleared his throat. People flocked to the divine lake and lived there, built empires there. They were called Tarascans. They were from Pachkuaro just like us. Well, for a time, things were peaceful, like the waters of the lake. But another fisherman soon came and disturbed the gentle waters, Cristobal de Olid. The children hissed and spat. Cristobal sailed with Cortes, the conqueror, and filled the rivers with blood, the blood of our ancestors. Tangangskuang, our emperor, met with Cristobal and pleaded to end the fighting. But you all know what happened next? Mr. Toro shifted off his seat and kneeled to the ground, eye level with the children, staring out at him. Cristobal forced the emperor to his knees, to kneel like a servant, and then began the bloodshed all over again. Genghis Khan had no choice but to surrender, to swear obedience to the Spanish. They forced him to change his religion, to baptize himself as Francisco, and wipe out all trace of his history. Mr. Toro eased back onto the broken cartoon and rubbed his knee. He looked over the crowd of children, silent, young eyes glittering in the dark. Cristobal framed our emperor, accused him of praying to the old gods and conspiring against the government. He dragged Genghis Khan across the ground from a horse, beat him with a rod, drowned him in the river, and burned the body. They threw his ashes into the Larma River and washed away the last traces of the brave emperor. Juan sat forward. This was the part he had waited for. The princess. But the emperor had a daughter, the princess named Menchita. She promised the Spaniards a great treasure of gold and jewels if they spared her father. And at first, the Spaniards agreed. Menchita sent her lover, Idziwa, to Lake Pachuaro to find it. The treasure, she said, lies at the bottom of the lake. Idziwa rowed out into the very center of the lake, where only the moonlight could see him, and dived into the water. The soldier leaned forward, so shadows hid his face. But something else dived into the water after him. You see, Idziwa was not the first to seek the treasure. 20 other men had dived into the lake before him, searching for the golden glimmers at the murky bottom. The shadows latched onto him like giant tendrils, dragging down a ship, and drowned him in the lake. The dark abyss swallowed Idziwa's body, and only his shadow remained. Mr. Toro sat back, reaching for another cigarette. Juan's mother frowned at him and shook her head. With a sigh, he put it back and rubbed his hand. A cold wind rushed into the school ground. Princess Menchita could not save her father or her lover, so she followed them as soon as she could and passed into the shadow world. He raised a finger, but that is not the end of their story, for shadows are always with us, just as the dead are always with us. This is why every year on the Day of the Dead you must visit the cemetery by the lake. He touched the dusty ground and left a handprint. You see them? If you look close enough, the marks left behind by their shadows. Princess Menchita climbs out of the lake every year to meet her lover in the cemetery. And if she cannot find him, she needs visitors to help her, so she can tell Idziwa she is sorry and that her love has not faded. The old soldier peered over the crowd and found Juan sitting on his mother's lap. Every story comes from the lake, every breath of our history. If I skipped the lake, you would not know where to find the princess, or the ashes of the emperor, or the fish in the water. The soldier's eyes softened. Do you see why I always start with the lake, Juan? Lesson learned. Never forget your roots, your history. They make you what you are today. Thank you. See you next with a new story.